Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the solo game of Findorff. I shouldn't say the solo game, the solo mode in Findorff. This can be played with 1 to 5 players. I'm going to show you what this game is like, a couple of turns, and then give you my thoughts and help you decide, is this the game that you'd like to put in your solo collection, or is this one you may want to pass on? All right, let's take a look. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and if you have, thank you so much for your support. So I'm about halfway in this game, maybe a little bit more, and the whole theme of the game is you are trying to rebuild the game designer Friese's hometown called Findorff. And basically, the rebuilding part is how you get the most points. Each of these different cards represents a building or a structure that you can raise throughout the game, and when you do that, that's worth 50 points. This is a beat your own score game, and on the back or near the back, you have the conditions there where basically you have to score at least 700 points to have a win, I would say. 850 would be the top of that victory condition. So you get points in this game by building these buildings, which give you 50. You also get points when you build rails in the bureaucracy phase, which is unique to the solo, and you'll get 10 points for each of those, and you can see that they're there by them being in this configuration. Basically 90 degrees from the rest of it. You get points for the leftover rails you have, you'll get 10 for each of those, 4 for each leftover brick. You will sell your peat for, I guess you would say, you look at the peat you have left over, and then you get that amount of points at the end of the game based on the available market you can sell to. So it specifically says equals the most expensive empty space. So it's not like you have to sell back to get points. You get 9 points per peat. If I had 5 of those peat, I would just get 45 points. I wouldn't get 9 and then a couple of 8s, etc. And then you finally get 1 point for every leftover taler, which is your tailor, however you say it, which is the money in this game. So that's what you're getting points on as you play. Now, how is the game played? The game is played in this little list-like rondel here, where you can take any action you want, and then after you finish your action, the town will build one of these railways. The game will end when they build their final railway, or you build this spot right here, triggering the end of the game as well. So that's kind of how it goes. And there's 4 main actions in this game. There are actions where you buy stuff, and that's what this thing is right here, where you've got the money bag. And what you could buy in this game is you could buy buildings for the cost. You can buy industries over there. And the 3 types of industries are brick manufacturers, rail manufacturers, and also barges that haul in peat. And the peat is useful to sell to the market for money. The last thing you can buy is these, I would just call them upgrade tiles, which allow you to take more actions per turn in the 4 different categories here. And so that's what this represents. These are all individual things, allowing me to take 2 buying actions, for instance, in this, 2 hiring actions, etc. The next type of move you can make is this hire move, where you literally take 1 worker from the supply for each one of these that you have. Then there's production, where you take the available workers that you have and you will put them onto spaces that you want to produce with, okay? They don't come off until you use the bureaucracy phase. That's when they do get removed and come back into opening the workers or the buildings up for reuse. And it should be noted that you could take the same action multiple turns in a row. That's fine. But when you do that, you don't spin around here triggering multiple bureaucracy stages. That's a little bit of a weird thing until you realize, oh, that would make the game kind of boring and ridiculous. You just keep triggering bureaucracy over and over. By taking the same action, it would kind of break the game. So you could produce, and then finally, over here, you can sell. And when you sell, it's a little bit weird because selling is also how you put houses on the board. That's the one counterintuitive thing I think about with this action. But you can spend 1 brick to put a house on the board, okay, in that action, any of these board house spaces, which is kind of strange. And I don't understand this, and I'd be happy if someone explains it to me. These spaces here are available to build houses, but it says if they run out of spaces, then just build the house anywhere. So I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of the space actually is. Maybe there's a card I haven't seen yet that gives you something for filled spaces, and I just haven't seen it. I don't know. But anyway, there are also sometimes buildings that allow you, like for instance, I built this ESPA construction, which every bureaucracy, I get a free house on this specific plot of land. Nobody else could build there. Again, I'm not exactly sure what's special about that, and no one builds there in the solo anyway, but I'm just pointing it out, and maybe someone can help me with that. The other thing you could do is you can sell rails to the city by basically placing a rail that you built previously. You put it out here, you get $10. And that's it. So you can build, what did I cover all three? You sell the rails, you build the houses. Oh, and then you sell peat to the actual market to generate money. So those are all the different actions you can take. And then during bureaucracy, what happens is you will take away a peat from the market for each house that's been built, making peat get more expensive. You never buy from this market. You actually just want this market to exhaust so that you can sell back to it and sell at the highest amount. So you do that. Then you look and see how many people do you have that pair up with buildings. And for each of those, you will take a rail from the supply and put it out in 90-degree fashion, like I said, plus you'll get four tellers when you do that. So that's a way to generate money. But you have to have pairs of people and buildings. Then you have one of your workers get discarded because they die of old age. And then finally, whatever income you might have on your cards that you've built, you take that income. So for instance, this says place one of my houses on this, plus get $6. So that is the entirety of the game. It's actually pretty straightforward and simple from a learning standpoint. The only thing that would be helpful is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, a small little tile or card that just basically lists the actual actions you can take with no detail. It would just remind you what you can take here. Then it's not even that big of a deal, but like I said, just for familiarity speaking, it wouldn't hurt to have that out there, or even print on the board. You get plenty of room. You have some of it printed on the board, so you have the sale action over here. You don't, I mean, this is part of the buy action, but there's nothing really that shows, you know, I don't know, like, it's just, I just miss, you know, during that sale action, you also sell here. Well, why don't you put an icon there? When you're building these, obviously that's with the buy action, but it's just kind of weird. You're buying to build these, but you're selling to build the houses. It's small, but I don't know. My puny brain seems to have a tough time with that. The only other mechanic in this game is the more buildings you build, this marker will start to go up. And if you build a building with a year that is below the spot where this is or lower, then it's $5 or $5 less to build it. So it kind of incentivizes you to build, you know, older buildings later. And I'm sure there's a little balance there too, but I haven't played enough to figure it all out. All right, so let's go ahead and show you a couple turns. So I just finished my bureaucracy phase, and I'm actually standing here. I haven't taken my first turn in this round yet. So I'm going to do the buy action here, and I can take two actions with it. So the first thing is I've got a bunch of money, so I definitely want to buy one of these buildings. I only have one brick though, so that's going to limit me to only buildings that cost one brick. And what I probably will do is, I could do this, which will give me some extra peat, and that'll help me sell. That's 20. I do have 20. So why don't I do that? So I'll build the floodgate. So that's 15. There we go. There's 20. All right. And then what you do is you just put this someplace, you know, that you've built it. I keep the cards, and these are all my cards. And by the way, the deck for the solo, there's 25 cards in here, of which you only will ever draw 14 randomly. So each game will definitely be different because you'll be having 14 specific cards. 11 of them won't be in play. I think that's extremely important to making this game good. All right, so, and I'll tell you why later. So anyway, I built that. That cost me 20. I just paid. Now I find the little building that's got 14 on it. And most of the time, these are just to jazz up the actual game board, wherever the 14 is. Here it is. And it just makes the town look a little more town-like, right? But sometimes they are functional. Sometimes they are. So you could decide whether you want to play with them or not. I don't mind putting them out. Just, it makes it look a little bit nicer. So anyway, so we built that. That's my first buy action. The second buy action I want to do is actually to enhance one of my other actions here. And since I've only got $5, I'm a little low on that. That's okay. I think I want to take one of these and get a third buy action so that I can do a little bit more every time I take that. So that's my other 5. Now I'm out of money. So my turn's over. Then he builds one. He is in the town builds one of these train tracks. And in this case, when you're building it in the first run at the very beginning and the middle of the game, it's going to start exhausting peat from the market. But then later on this one, it's going to start adding peat to the market, which isn't good because it makes the price lower. So that is a balancing act, which I think makes sense, because as you build up in the game, you're going to have more houses, probably, drawing peat out of things and such. So this is kind of a balancer to put it back. And historically, I suppose it makes sense too, because they said that as time went on, there was less need for peat for the source of heating and more need for coal. So peat became less and less a big deal as the years went on. All right, so now it's my turn. I could skip any one of these and go to any action I want, but I know I want more people. But I don't need more people in this round because I won't have to worry about them all or losing them. However, the more people I get, the more I can pair up with my buildings to score at the end. So I will do that. I will take 2 more people, even though I don't necessarily have 4 businesses to run. But you'll see why I did that in a second. However, each action is precious in this game because he will keep building on, right? So I only have a maximum of this many turns left. So not too many. So you've got to be you have to optimize and be very efficient. Now I do want to produce. And when I'm doing the production action, I can only use 2 of my workers, okay, because I only have 2 actions there. I will get a rail for sure, which you store on your little warehouse card. And then I'm going to get 2 more bricks so that I can build one of these cards, maybe this one over here, that gives me more bricks. And by the way, when I built that one, I should have moved this down a little bit so that these buildings become more discounted if I had one. For instance, that was 1803 or earlier, and I don't. But anyway, that's how that works. All right, so I've taken my 2 actions to build. Now, if I wanted to, if I had taken an action to bring in peat, you don't take it off the board. You take it out of the supply and put it in your warehouse to sell potentially later for money. So you never take it off the board here to buy. It's always from the supply, which is off the camera. Okay, so then he takes his next action and he adds 2 more peat to the area there. Then I'm going to do a sale action here. So what I really don't, I'm not even sure I want to do a sale action, to be honest, because I don't want to sell this rail. I need the rail for stuff to build some buildings. And I also don't really want to build any more houses with this action because I get free ones over here anyway. So, and I believe those aren't necessarily free ones. Just to be clear, it says that, oh, and when I did the production, I was supposed to get a peat for my new building that I built for free from the supply. You just get one of those. It's not 1 per symbol. So let me take a quick look on here. On card number 11, it says that place one of your houses on the blue building spaces. It doesn't say build, it's just place. So I'm thinking you don't have to pay brick for those, which is good because I can save my brick from over here. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do then is skip that action, not even take it. I'll go right under bureaucracy in the midst. So bureaucracy is not really an action, it's kind of a pass through. But I'm going to take that on my way to buying some other stuff. Okay, so let's do the bureaucracy phase. So it says, for each of your houses in Findorff, remove 1 peat from the market. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. So we're going to dust off 5 from the market here. Then it says, for each of your pairs with a worker in a house, in Findorff, gain 4 talers and place 1 rail from the supply onto the board. Well, I have 4 workers, 5 houses, so that's going to be $16 or 16 talers, pardon me. So we'll get that 5, 10, 15, 16. And then I put these 3 on there, which is going to score me 30 points at the end of the game. 1, 2, 3, 10 points per rail, plus it adds 2 more back here. All right? Then time passes, and, oh, I should have put 4 up there, sorry. Because I have 4 pair. Then time passes, one of the workers die, the rest of the workers come off these areas. And then if I had any things that I can gain, which I do, I would gain them now. So I get to put one of those houses on here for free. And then I get to put $6 into my coffers. $6, pardon me. And remember, that was on the way to taking the action I'm going to take here, which is going to be a buy action. So what I'm going to do is I really could use some more rails. So I'm going to spend 17, okay, 17 to pick up this building, which will allow me to use 2 guys to build 3 rails, which could be good. Then my second buy action, I'm going to spend $10 or $10 and 2 brick to build the power plant. The power plant says that for every 2 people on the board, I get 1 taler, or taler, pardon me, I'm sorry, during the income phase, okay? And that is card number 12. Plus, again, that's worth 16 or 50 points, wherever I said 16, I don't know. 50 points, and that's the whole name of the game, is you're trying to get those out there to score big. Here's number 12, and number 12 on the board is located here. Okay. I don't have anything I can do with my third build action because I'm out of money. So it is what it is. He takes this turn right there. So you can get an idea right now of how this is working. And I'm going to stop right now, but you definitely have a feeling for the whole game in its entirety. The only thing I didn't really do was sell Pete to the market, but you can imagine what that's like. And you're really trying at the very end to get, in the beginning, you're trying to optimize and get your engine going so that at the near the end, you can build as many of these cars as possible to try to get as much points as you can per card. And there's an interesting dance between which buildings you build, how you can afford it, what they give you, the selection of them, etc. The optimization of how much time and money do you invest in certain actions so that when you land on them again, they give you more stuff. There's even buildings that allow you to get free things. Like, for instance, if I built the gas works, that would give me 1 free production token right there, which I would use, in my thing to make it more efficient. So these cards do all sorts of different things, which I think is really cool, and they interact in different ways. And some of them just give you money, some of them give you goods, some of them give you actions, some will allow you to generate money depending on what's happening. So there's lots of different stuff there, which is kind of cool. So that's the whole thing from a solo perspective. Let me tell you what I think about it. Okay, so after many, many, many years, I think Mr. Friedman Friese has finally done it. He has given me a solo game that's going to stick in my collection and not work its way out after a few plays or whatever. I really enjoy this game. It's fun because each of the cards, it does different things, which you see in lots of games, but the order in which you build them and which ones you decide to construct when plays a key part into that puzzle of what you're doing. The important thing is that in this game, you have a deck of 25 of which you only ever see 14 buildings. I think that is really important. Where some of his other games, like Fayem, fell down for me was you had all the cards every time. There was no variability. There was no, you could kind of get, different cards came out at different times for sure, but it exhausted the whole feeling. There was no tension. In this game, there's clear tension because the solo, the city will be building a rail every time. Plus, depending on how you're doing things with your housing and how fast you're building rails, you could be speeding that up too. That could be, I just want to make sure of something I just realized Yeah, never mind. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just looking to see if I placed a rail when I did, or when I was supposed to, and it wasn't one of those situations. Anyway, sorry to get distracted. The reality is that this game provides the tension and the clock that you need. So it is not just play and meander and score as high as you can. I don't like that kind of a feel. This one doesn't do it, which is great. I do not mind the beat your own score at all, because the tension is there, the variety is there, and how you optimize your machine, your fairly simple, rondel of actions, but how you work that in is really cool. I think it's really fun to decide how you want to do that. How many of these kinds of moves do you want to get? Do you want to be efficient like this? Do you want to not worry about it? When do you skip that action? When do you not need to go on it? So you can pass that a couple times. When you have to take the same action twice. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you can explore, and it isn't completely obvious, like, oh, well, this is obviously the best move. Obviously this or that. It's not that way at all, which is why I think this game is very fun, and I think it's enjoyable from a solo standpoint. It is definitely a solo puzzle. The whole thing is an optimization puzzle, which is totally okay with me because I love puzzles and I love that kind of thing too. And I just think it's an interesting, fun game. I like that the market gets, you can depreciate it exhaust it further and further to try to make your peat more worthwhile and spend it to get more. I just think it's really kind of cool, and it fills back up on you as you get deeper into the game. So you can't game it. You know what's going to happen, but it's not like it's a guarantee. It all depends on how many houses you built and what you try to do to keep the market favorable for you. It shifts well in the game, so even though at the end of the game you have more money and you have more stuff going on, you're trying to build those buildings as much as you can and use those resources. And they may not give you too much from a standpoint of getting their special bonus, but that's okay. That's that you're just trying to build them to maximize your score at the end. I've heard people complain that every building is worth 50 points and that's kind of boring. I don't think so. I read the designer's reasoning behind that. I think he made a good decision to change things up. Instead of having to count weird scores and such, he decided to make the buildings cost more and benefit in different ways. It's fine with me. It's kind of interesting how you balance it. And it really puts the whole focus into, it's about timing when you build it, right? And it's about your engine versus different levels of score. Well, this building's worth 20 points. This building's worth 10 points. This one's worth 17 points, etc. You can do whatever you want. But I do, as far as a designer, and most games are like that, but I'd like to see something new. And one thing I'll always say about Mr. Friese is that he works hard to try to find a way to do something that isn't boring for him in his games. He tries to do some kind of innovation with each of these things. And sometimes that works really well for me and I'm really excited about it. And other times it's an interesting product, but it doesn't necessarily lead to a really fun experience. And so sometimes it's a little bit hit or miss, but I do like that he tries that all the time. And so I think in this case, from a solo perspective, he has succeeded in something that I enjoy and I will keep on my table. Also, I will say this: once you know what you're doing, this game can play very fast unless you really suffer for AP. The box says 75 minutes. I don't think that's 75 minutes at all. I think this game could be done in 40, 45 minutes or so solo. You really kind of move through it depending on how the game goes and what you're trying to do. So I think that's enjoyable as well. It's not a massive game that drags on, and it ends pretty abruptly too. As you get near the end, all of a sudden, boom, 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 that's 5 rails. Then he builds, it kind of accelerates. So you have a feeling of, uh-oh, I got to be careful about the timing and the end of the game. When is it going to happen? So I have enough time to do things, because if I take too many turns in between, I might miss it. And then boom, it's over. And if I could only build one more or two more buildings, I would have had a sweet, really great score. So I like all that. I think it's really cool. The negatives on it, if you want, an Automa to play against, there is none of that here. I don't miss it at all, but you might. The overall board, I've always said it, the board kind of looks blah. I wish they had done something different and just made it a little bit more cheerful looking, so to speak, colorful, like these cards. These cards look nice, the tiles look nice, the board looks like an old map, and that's okay. I just don't love it. But everything else I really enjoy about this game, I really do, and I'm very glad that we finally got there. I'm glad I took another chance, and they did a really, really bang up job with this one. I don't think it needs any expansions. I don't think it's not, I think it's a complete game, right? So it's one of those games that feels fun in its own right, and it's not like, boy, if there was just some more complexity or this or that, you know, that would really turn it into great. I don't think this game needs it. I think it's just good right where it is. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone. Whatever you decide to play in the future, I hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy.